Good afternoon. My name is Bill Osberg. I'm honored to be the MC today. We will open with presentation of colors presented by American Legion Post 46, Little Falls, led by Bob Tomey, Dennis Frank, Ken Bergeraff, Jerry Schmitz. I got a good memory. So please stand and remove cover to present colors.
Sure.
Post colors. Present. Order. Ready? Please.
We will now post a POW MIA flag, which is a standard ceremony for American Legion Post and VFWs, presented by our Sergeant of Arms, Bob Koslowski.
Thank you.
You may be seated. Jack, you can stay standing. You can stand up pretty quick again anyway. And when I'll call on Joe Shermers for invocation. And I will ask you to stand, sorry. And remove cover.
First of all, let me tell you, since 2009, we did over 150 meetings. It was all volunteer by a bunch of us. So thank you for coming today, and I hope you enjoy everything. Dear Lord, we thank you for giving us brave men and women who defended our freedom. May your protection surround them each day and every day. Thank you for your healing hand on those who suffered wounds and injuries. May those who made the supreme sacrifice rest forever in your holy presence. Comfort those who mourn and are left to remember the precious lives of their loved ones. Help us to honor and support each and every one of them and their sacrifices that made for all Americans. Remember the mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, brothers and sisters, wives and husbands, and family and friends. Amen. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll call on Don Dolman, VFW.
Say one. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. You may now be seated. And hopefully if the legs get kind of rubbery, stand next to the person, stand a little closer to him. One man started this. Unbelievable monument. One man, Gordon Gerling, whose painting is on the very first army, the civilian, only civilian, right, Charles, in civilian clothes. The only civilian, he's standing next to Thomas Paine on the left of the army painting. Gordon Gerling, longtime state representative from Little Falls. So went from one man to another man, Charles Gilbert Kapsner. To imagine 10 years ago, they would be gathered to see the completion of 5 8x10 oil paintings with live models and posed either in his Charles studio or in other positions of military branches and military bases. From one man to another man, to many people. As Joe said, fundraising is not an easy task, but fundraising is what accomplishes what you're viewing today. The amazing the amazing accomplishment that was made by those who are families being honored with no, and I mean this not facetiously and not jokingly, no public, state, or federal tax money. That in itself, to me, and I think to the committee itself, and to Charles as well, is an accomplishment that speaks of the honor that we as veterans, we as family members of veterans, spouses, family, children, realize this is from the heart. This isn't something that somebody had to jump through hoops for the state government, the federal government. At this time, I'm going to call on Rob Gross. He's the administrator at the Preston Cemetery. And just imagine, Preston Cemetery. Unheard of. When this was started, correct me if I'm wrong, 1994 was the first burial. Right? Where is Rob? Oh, I'm sorry, there. Right? 1994 was the first burial. And what happened yesterday, Rob, in Duluth? He'll tell you. What happened yesterday was, what I will tell you, is the unveiling of the Duluth Cemetery. Unbelievable opportunity for family members of veterans not to have to travel to Fort Snelling, to not have to drive 100 miles down and 100 miles back just from Little Falls. What if you live in International Falls? What if you live in Rochester, further south? So at this time, I'd like to introduce Rob Gross, the administrator at the Preston Cemetery.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. And as you know, Eric Sagi is the director of this location, but for some reason he decided he wanted to go on his honeymoon instead. So I guess we all know his priorities now, but it is a true honor to be with you here today. Again, I am the administrator of the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery in Preston, and we each have our individual characteristics, each have our unique areas, demographics, everything. But one of the things that I noticed first when I came to this location, and at that point, obviously they were not all up on the walls as they are today, was the beauty of the paintings here. And this truly gives Little Falls something truly, truly amazing. So for everyone that was here and part of this at the beginning, everyone that donated, everybody that made this happen, as a veteran myself, I have to give you a sincere thank you for doing this. I do also want to say I'm a little partial to the Army, but it's just the way it is. So, but again, thank you very much for being here today. I will be here with Michelle and with Val from Little Falls, so if anybody does have questions afterwards, please reach out to one of us and we'll be happy to assist you. So, again, thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize for failing to mention, when speaking of Gordon Gerling, who else do we speak of? Betty. As we know, Betty, did you tell me this earlier? Behind every good man is a better woman? Well, maybe, I'm sure most people do. Also failed to mention that we have some sentinels here today representing the Air Force. Staff Sergeant? Sergeant Olson? Representing both, well, at this point, as you can see, is wonderful. I'm from the Navy, excuse me, I had to mention that. Barry Johnson. Well, oh really? I've been calling you Barry Johnson for the last month. Lynn Duxbury's husband. Barry Duxbury representing the Coast Guard, Coastie. What's that? Also, two sentinels below the Army painting, and I did not introduce myself to them. Please state your name my right.
Joseph Moore.
And on my left?
Adrian Johnson.
Adrian Johnson. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I know the two, are they here? The two politicians? They're missed this? Then I won't mention their names then. If they don't show up, why should I mention their names? Huh? Because if they were here, I'm sure they'd say, I'm here, Bill. But they're not here. That's okay. We did this without politicians. Why do we want them now? Right? Oh, sorry, Steve. But as we know, this sacred grounds that we're standing in, and the sacred building that we're standing in, of course, was originated through state and federal funds. We cannot forget that. Unfortunately, we at times cannot survive without the state or federal government, but it would be fun to try it. And I'm an active politician. At this time, we're going to introduce our Commissioner of Veterans Affairs. Larry Herkey is with us today. Retired Colonel Larry Herkey was appointed as the 18th Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs in January 2019. Commissioner Herkey is charged with serving Minnesota's 318,000 veterans and their families by connecting them with the federal and state care and benefits they have earned. He also represents MDVA at hearings before the Minnesota State Legislature and United States Congress, and maintains close working relationships with various veteran service organizations of Minnesota. Commissioner Herkey served for more than 30 years as a member of the United States Army and Minnesota National Guard. After retiring from the National Guard in 2016, he led the Office of Enterprise Sustainability for the state of Minnesota. In this position, he assisted all 24 cabinet-level state agencies in developing sustainability plans to save money, conserve resources, and improve the environment. Commissioner Herkey holds a Master of Arts degree in Public Administration and Bachelor of Science degree in Accounting, both from Minnesota State University, Mankato. He is also a graduate of the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College and holds a number of certifications. Please welcome Commissioner Larry Herkey.
Well, it's great to be with you here today. This is quite a weekend for us at Veterans Affairs. I was there yesterday with the governor and also the Undersecretary Reeves, who is responsible for all the cemeteries throughout the entire world. And he was explaining that there's 165 federal cemeteries throughout the world. But what he's most proud of is actually the state cemeteries. There's 115 state cemeteries throughout the United States. Minnesota is unique in that we have actually 3 within our state, and I'm working on the 4th one. So we're going to try to get one more in Redwood County, and we've got a request in for that right now, so I'll keep you appraised on how well that goes. But it's an honor today to be able to be here with these magnificent works. I got to meet Charles not too long ago. We got a chance to, I haven't got to your studio yet, but I'll get there yet. But we got a chance to talk about this room and the importance of this room as it relates to the veterans and their families that come through here. I can tell you I've only seen a picture of the Airforce painting, and it looks a lot better in person, so it's magnificent. And it does finish the room. Really, this room was built for this, and I think the hard work the committee did and that everyone did here to bring this to be is really makes it something special for all services. This is a special weekend, as I said before. The dedication event, our newest cemetery was in Duluth, Minnesota. It actually is 104 acres of space. Currently, there's about 14 acres that is actually been cleared. It was actually cut out of the middle of a forested area. So lots of trees around, a lot different sort of feeling as you walk and go through that. The governor asked me when he did Preston Cemetery and he opened it, he said there was an eagle that came out at the end of the ceremony, and it was flying overhead as the last music happened. Yesterday, just after the governor left, 2 very young eagles came out and were flying over the cemetery. So I think there's a special meaning there for the people that were in attendance. This cemetery is unique in that it's probably working about at its optimum efficiency as it relates to the number of burials and so forth. Currently, we're over 500 burials per year, and there's 7,750 burials since 1994, and this is its 25th year in operation. My promise to Charles and to the group of people assembled here is that I will make sure we take care of these paintings. They're maintained, and they're kept just as you see them today. So that's my job as the administrator for the Veterans Affairs for the state. I'd like to thank the Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association for their support of this unique project, and I know that for generations in the future that there will be people many, many years from now that'll look at these paintings and get a better understanding of what the sacrifices of our military people and people in our armed forces have gone through. So again, I thank everyone for being here today. I thank you for your support of this project, and I just hope you have a wonderful day. It's not raining like it was yesterday, so that's better, and we're indoors. So, but I thank you very much.
Charles last week introduced some of the models. I'm just thinking, that standing there, and yep, and there's several here. So I'm going to ask that if you modeled for one of these paintings, some of you may be already standing, so I was asked you to raise your hand. So if you modeled, be involved with the paintings, please raise your hand, and spouse. Barb, Bob Mueller. Barb, I'm going to just didn't ask you if I could do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm sure you will forgive me. Okay, Charles, you made to do this. Barb's husband, Ray, 20 years in the Navy, he's a diver, came back to Little Falls and became a shop teacher to middle school. And he learned of the unbelievable monuments that were being painted by Charles. Charles and Ray struck a very strong personal connection. Ray Stump is, you see this later, you can't go bring your neck around. Ray Stump is sitting on the coil of line. In the Navy we call it line, we don't call it rope, right? Ray is sitting on there. I'll just add this one last time. At the dedication of that, it was pointed out by the family that Ray is overlooking his burial site. Every one of these paintings have something in it, I believe, that has those kind of strings attached, right? Charles, and you know better than any of us. So, on that note, I would like to introduce the artist of these 5 beautiful monuments, Charles Gilbert Kapsner.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. And I just told Bill I'm not going to give a history lesson today because we'd be here for the rest of the day or week. So, as this day is set aside to celebrate the donors, I express my gratitude to all who believed enough to make this monument a reality. Through your generosity, all donations were significant. Veterans and veterans service groups, businesses, corporations, foundations, and hundreds of individuals stepped up. And each and every donation made it possible for these 5 paintings to hang forever in this hallowed space. The paintings focus on the enduring impact of our nation's servicemen and women, not only during their time of service, but long after. While the Air Force is the most recent, whatever your branch of military, these paintings highlight your contributions, achievements, and sacrifices. They are your stories. Thank you very much. I'd be available to answer any questions later on about the paintings.
Thank you, Charles. I didn't know we gave you a time limit. Okay. With the dedication of all 5 paintings and its completion, also today is the day to dedicate the 5 memorial granite pedestals right outside the portal. And so please take time after the program to view those. And also, there's a booklet over to the side here too, also, that has been presented with donors under a certain amount of money. The donors in the granted amount and above that. And that was the corporations, the businesses and individuals that are honored. And also, some of those donations were in honor/memory of as well. So it was two of those stones like that as well. In order for all of this to happen, and there was an existing Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association that was existing prior to Gordon's dream. And he was, I believe at the time, a member or the president of. And those duties were turned over to a couple other personnel as well throughout the 10-year period. And in order to be a member of the Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association, you have to be a veteran, and which is an honor in itself. And who better to be on that association than veterans who have the opportunity to perhaps be interred here? I don't know if many of you or all of you or some of you have been here for a service. I'm just going to take a minute here, a couple minutes. Each time there's a service here, there is a veterans organization such as the Legion, the VFW, and other organizations, I believe DAV, Don, is that true? They come out and present the colors, and they do the honor guard. And they have the rifle volley right outside the door there. A volley is always conducted and presented over the casket or over the urn. And then, of course, they have representatives of each military branch representing the veteran that has passed. And they come in, they do the flag folding. And then it's a very, very moving ceremony. And then the family stays here, and then either the urn or the casket is taken out to its burial place. The family does not go out there with the urn or the casket. They stay within the building or step outside, and within 45 minutes they have the opportunity to go visit the site before they leave. Well, Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery Association, excuse me, I said it wrong, Memorial Association, has to be led by somebody. And Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association has been led by a man here that's here today. I'm going to present him to the podium here in a minute, that has dedicated many years of his life as well. And I will say this as well, Betty, behind every good man is a stronger and better woman. And that's called teamwork, right? It's teamwork. Where would Jack be without Betty, and where would Betty be without Jack? And through that progress of working on I keep saying this, Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association, as Joe mentioned, 150 meetings or more. They've gathered here many times. You've gathered at other locations as well. And there's a lot of work to that. As any of you that are on a committee know, it's a lot of work. And it takes time, and it takes volunteers, it takes commitment. So this time I'd like to present the present president of the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery Association, Jack Peck.
I had some plaques here.
You're over there.
Oh, okay.
I can hold them.
Okay.
That'd be wonderful, so they don't slide down. And Betty, I'm going to do this because I know you want to run up and do this. Just straighten out the jacket.
Thank you very much for being here. This is a culmination of 10 years of work and effort, and not only by me, but most everybody in this room. And like Bill said, if you're a veteran, you're encouraged to help us at the Minnesota State Veterans Cemetery. We meet quarterly throughout the year, and our main purpose is to present that big Memorial Day program that we have 12 to 1,500 people here for that dedication. It's very important, and the veterans do put that together. You know, there's behind the fundraisers, there's a couple of ladies that do all the work besides their wives. And I would like Leanne Doucette and Shirley Zablocki to please come forward. These are both the same, so I'll read it once. Certificate of Appreciation to Shirley Zablocki. In recognition of the significant contributions to the Veterans Educational and Historic Monument. Shirley's commitment and dedication were paramount to the successful completion of this monument. Her tireless efforts have ensured that generations to come will have the opportunity to remember the history, sacrifice, and contributions of the United States military. Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association, Minnesota State Cemetery would like to express our sincerest appreciation. Presented this 22nd day of September 2019. How about a nice hand for Shirley Zablocki? And this one is presented to Leanne Doucette. I got to know these two gals pretty well because we have meetings every other month. Every other month we had a meeting for the Cemetery Association, and then we had a meeting for the fundraising committee. And they did all the work. They did all the paperwork. So, like you said, behind every good man, there's a better woman. So, thank you very, very much. I have one other one that I would like to present. And this was a lady by the name of Jan Hubda. If you see that memorial wall out there, she is the one who organized it and put it together for us. She separated every donation and helped us out tremendously. Once she organized this, we went over and we tried to make sure that every I was dotted, every comma was in place, and everyone belonged in the right service. And we thank her very much. So Jan Hubda, would you come forward, please? This is Janice Hubda, an appreciation of your service spent in the completion of the granite monuments honoring the Veterans Historic Educational Project from the Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association. Janice Hubda, thank you. That's the only reason I do that. They said say a few words, and I'm going to try. I'm going to talk about veterans. As we gather here today among our departed comrades and their spouses who are residents peacefully resting in the cemetery, it inspires your mind, it lifts your spirit, secures your soul, and restores your faith that these veterans did not die in vain. There's no other place like this in the world, this cemetery. Populated by men and women under rows of white monuments that remind you of all our fallen comrades who served our nation with resolve and honor. I cannot move forward without thanking two World War II veterans, Vernon Bogalki and Laverne Hansen. They were the people who felt we should have a cemetery, as Bill mentioned earlier, so we wouldn't have to drive all the way down to Fort Snelling to be interned. These two men had the foresight of creating a veterans cemetery in central Minnesota. As the cemetery, with the help of camper equipment and personnel, it became a reality. Dave Swantek was named the administrator of the original cemetery, and he served in that capacity until 2015. Eric Sagi took over at that time. As Bill said, he's on his honeymoon. At the present time, he's on his way to Italy. What a staff we have. Every time you come in there, you get a big, big smile from Michelle Gorka. She's the office administrator. Michelle, are you here? I'd like to have her step forward if she is. She's coming. Michelle, thank you for what you have done for this. Outside groundskeepers. These people are just as important as anyone. And what a group they are. Corey Engen, Jeremiah Detterman, Val Polarski, Dennis Knowles, and several part-time assistants throughout the summertime. Our thanks to their care, the Minnesota Veterans Cemetery was named as one of the 3 most beautiful cemeteries in the country. That's quite an honor. As you heard before, last year a new Veterans Cemetery was opened in Preston, and today Dave Swantek is in Hermantown for the dedication. The first burial at the cemetery was Corporal Leonard Lehman. He was a United States Marine during the Korean War. This cemetery is the final resting place for a 4-star general, John Vesey Jr., and his wife Avis. Their monument is right out here in the front. It's the final resting place for John. And General Vesey was appointed chairman for the Joint Chiefs of Staff for then President Ronald Reagan. We're proud to have General Vesey and Admiral Hank McKinney to endorse this project when we began it 10 years ago. That's some pretty big people. In 2019, Gordon Gerling, a World War II Air Corps veteran, approached the State Veterans Cemetery Association with the idea of the 5 paintings. Noted artist Charles Kapsner was chosen for the honor. Along with Gordon, Lyle Nelson, now departed, Susie Prosapio, Greg Zilka, and myself were selected for the fundraising committee. Today, we dedicate the 5 paintings and the granite memorial. Who are these men and women that we're honoring today? Who are these men and women who made our country the land of the free and the home of the brave? 2 points I'd like to dwell on this morning. Now hear this. That's Navy talk. We did the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know if you've ever heard this, or if you have, bear with me. I pledge allegiance, which means I promise to be true, of the United States of America. Each state has joined together to make our country. And to the republic, it's a country where the people choose others to make the laws for them. The government is for the people, for which it stands. That flag means the country. Under God, the people believe in a supreme being, with liberty and justice, with freedom and fairness for all, each person in this country, you and me. Second point I'd like to talk about is the National Chef de Guerre of the 48, which is an honor society of the American Legion. The 48 is a group, it used to be during World War I, was a boxcar that held 40 men and 8 horses. That's where they got the logo. Some people may not be familiar with that, but it's an honor to be a member of that organization. He or she could be a cop on a beat who spent duty at the invasion of Normandy, skies over Germany, in a submarine or on the deck of an aircraft carrier, on an island in the South Pacific or the deserts of Iraq or Afghanistan. He or she is a nurse who fought against futility and went to sleep at night sobbing for 2 years in the South Pacific. He or she may be a POW who came back or didn't come back. He or she may have been in a boot camp, an instructor who turned boys into men and late girls into women, then into soldiers, Marines, pilots, deckhands, and aircraft carriers, teaching them to watch each other's back and never desert their comrades. He may be a guy who bags your groceries and wishes his wife were still alive to hold him when he has nightmares. He or she is a person who offered their life so that others should not have to sacrifice theirs. I'm sure you've heard this before. To me, it bears repeating. It wasn't Joseph Pulitzer or William Hearst who got us our freedom of the press. It was a veteran. It wasn't Billy Graham or Cardinal Spellman who created our freedom of religion. It was a veteran. It wasn't Dr. Martin Luther King who won us the freedom to protest what isn't right. It was a veteran. It wasn't Bill Gates or Henry Ford who gave us the right to be successful. It was a veteran. It wasn't Ronald Reagan or Abraham Lincoln or all the signers of the Constitution who gave us a democratic government. It was a veteran. These veterans resting here came in all shapes, all sizes, all colors, all religions, all education, all political beliefs, but all shared one bond. They came when their country called. Next time you see a veteran, just say, thank you. I like to say 5 words. Thank you for your service. It means so much to a veteran. I wish to thank all who joined this journey, members of the Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association, members of the fundraising committee, Charles Gilbert Kapsner, especially over the 600 donors of the project who waited patiently for this day, the dedication of the paintings and the granite memorial. Thank you, and God bless.
Whoops. Sorry about that. My head got in the way. What a surprise. Thank you, Jack. You can sit down now, Bob. Thank you, Jack. Men and women, as a spouse of a veteran, you are entitled to be buried here as well with your spouse. And there are many women veterans who are buried here with their civilian spouse. So remember that this is not a burial sacred ground only for veterans, it's for their spouse as well. So on behalf of the Minnesota State Veterans Memorial Association, the cemetery, the crew itself, thank you, Rob. There you go. Rob, for being here representing Little Falls Cemetery. Rob, since a man decided to go on a honeymoon. Thank you, Larry Herkey, for being here as well as the commissioner. It's an honor to have you here with us. At this point, we will ask the color guard, there's the difference. Color guard is for presenting colors as today, whereas the identification honor guard is when they're at a burial. And so that is the distinction of the difference between a color guard and honor guard. So at this point, we would ask Bob Koslowski from American Legion Post to retire the ribbon for POW MIA. At this point, we will ask Joe. Joe, I hope so. Joe, of course. You need the podium?
I think I'd like to have some credit to Steve Wenzel. Steve Wenzel was on the legislature when this cemetery started. Him and Al Laird fought hard. I remember with Al at that time, I was with him. And Al told me, he said, we don't care what's happened, we're going to get this thing. So him and Steve hung together until they got it done. So I think that should be very
So as I said at the beginning, one man with an idea, one man with the skill and the ability to present that idea into something as beautiful as this, honors many men and women. Even if your burial site or interment is not here, it still honors the men and women who served. I remember Charles telling me when he did this painting, it's not about the tanks and the jeeps and the planes and the aircraft carriers, it's about the men and women who served in its own story. At this point, do I see the American Legion Post 46 color guard available? Oh, there they are. I will ask you to stand and remove cover, please, as we retire the colors.
Present. Order. Retrieve your colors. Right? Please.
Thank you. And Charles, you stick around for a few minutes. I'm sure you have lots of questions. And thank you for your attendance. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.